Hello, beautiful human beings. Welcome back to the Jayesha podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today's a very special episode. It is all about how to feel our emotions. Specifically, how I've learned to feel my emotions with special help from my therapist. Shout out to my guy Mark if he's listening to this. But yeah, I feel like there's just so many changes that are happening to our planet and our society right now that it can be a time of very, very heightened emotions. At least that I'm definitely experiencing these within myself. And I think that emotions don't have to be bad at all. There's simply an energy of change. At least our bad emotions. The good ones tell us to keep going, that life is good. So I think I created a flowchart for the emotions, for how I feel emotions in particular, and posted it to Instagram the other night. And I had so many people DM say that it was super helpful. So I decided just to make an entire podcast episode on it, and it should be the cover. Well, it will be the cover of this episode. So feel free to look at this flowchart as I'm talking. But yeah, let's get right into it. How I've learned to feel emotions, specifically big emotions, and not just get totally overwhelmed by them. So the first thing that I do when feeling my emotions is I find a safe environment. This kind of goes without saying. I think that some people, if we ever want to tap into how we feel, we're never going to really learn if we're just in fight or flight, if we're in defense mode. Because when we're in defense mode, we're always just going to be the version of ourselves that we think is going to be the most safe. But that version of ourselves that we think is going to be the most safe might not be the version of ourselves that is the most aligned with our true self. And this brings me to my next point, which is that I think it's really, really important, once we find the safe space, to have an understanding of what emotions really are so that we can create a container for ourselves, a safe container to feel them. So emotions look to restore us to peace and balance within ourselves. When we are living in peace, it is our most authentic self because there is nothing we feel the need to change. This is the definition of peace. Peace is a state that it doesn't imply change. So this is our most authentic self. Our most authentic self is the one in which we feel peace within. So all of our, like I've said, bad feelings, bad emotions are in some way trying to point us back to this self. We worry when we feel pain and don't know what to do with it. Or we don't know the way in which it is telling us how we have strayed away from our most authentic self. In my opinion, the biggest reason that a lot of us can't tap into our emotions in the way that we want to is because they're buried under us avoiding them in some way. Either with overthinking, with our addictions, and when I say addictions, I don't mean necessarily to drugs. I mean being addicted to our phone, being addicted to scrolling, being addicted to sugar, being addicted to maybe even sex or relationships, always needing to be around people. I think if we don't know what to do with our emotions, if we don't know how they're serving us, if we don't have the courage is the wrong word. If we don't have the tools to really look at our pain, the only thing that we can do is bury it. Because to live in a state of pain all the time, we wouldn't be able to operate in society. We simply wouldn't be able to function. So yeah, I wrote this down. I wrote a little script for this episode. I said, perhaps we've been told in the past we were wrong for feeling upset by certain things. Like the way someone treated us, or not wanting to be so busy because it is, quote, just the way things are. Your soul, your most authentic self, doesn't care about societal norms. It is always going to reorient you back to yourself. If a relationship or a career is asking us to live in a way that goes against who you authentically are, it is going to cause pain until either the relationship or career changes or you leave them. And these are just two examples of things that could cause us pain that maybe we avoid because we don't know how to change the relationship or the career, or we don't have the capacity to leave them in a certain moment. And again, there's nothing wrong with this at all. When we inevitably find ourselves in a position where we're doing something that's out of line with our true self, that is what the human journey is all about. It's about experimenting and seeing who we are and who we're not, and what it means to be Jack, to be whoever you are, beautiful listener. So, and then I wrote that this is never selfish. It's never selfish to need to change a relationship, to need to leave a relationship, to need to change a career, to need to leave a career, no matter how important you think you are to this thing. What the world needs more than anything is more peace. More people at peace, serving others in a way that truly aligns with who they are and their universe-giving gifts. There are lots of problems in the world. Lots of problems. There's lots of new problems that it seems like we don't have an answer to. And I firmly believe that we do have the answers and that the answers are within all of us. I just believe that we don't listen to ourselves. Maybe we've assumed our gifts we know we have aren't so great. Maybe we've assumed there is something wrong with who we authentically are. Maybe we haven't been taught how to really listen to ourselves. Maybe it's all three. This is my way of saying that if you're choosing yourself, it's never actually selfish. You can't pour out your cup from an empty cup. You know what I'm saying? I think, and then, yes, this is another very important part about understanding emotions. I think many of us have assumed or learned somewhere along the way that we cause ourselves pain. Why would I trust myself if I continue to hurt myself? Why would I listen to myself? This was something really hard for me when learning to trust the way that I feel. I would always say to myself, why would I be gentle with myself when I've caused myself so much pain? Why would I be nice to myself? Why would I listen to myself when I've caused myself so much pain? Seems so practical, you know, like I'm not on your team. Like I feel like you just kind of mess things up. I said, when feeling your emotions, to truly trust them, an important distinction to make is that you will always be in pain when you are living in a way that is not aligned with your most authentic self. The behaviors, perhaps an addiction, a toxic relationship, even some physical sickness or fatigue that arises as a result of you not living as your most authentic self are not the cause of your suffering. They are merely a symptom of this deeper misalignment from your most authentic self. Wow. So let's unpack this a little bit before I move on. These things that I felt so much shame about, for me, one of the biggest things that I felt shame about is my hair. My hair is getting thin. Whenever I get stressed, I can feel it coming out. And this makes me not want to be gentle with myself. It's like I'm attacking my hair. I'm causing my hair to fall out. Why would I want to be gentle with myself? I like my hair. I like having curly hair. And then I get super overwhelmed. And then it makes me not want to listen to myself. It makes me not want to be kind to myself. It makes me not want to trust myself. But again, if we can look at this more fully, we can see that there's really no point in getting frustrated with my hair because my hair is falling out because I'm stressed out. And this stress that I feel is my deeper self saying, hey, slow down, or don't overthink so much. This is not who you are. I want to be at peace more. I want to relax more. And I want to be kinder to myself, because then when I'm mean to myself, it causes me more stress. Do you know what I mean? So this pain that I'm feeling of me judging my hair, really it's that deeper misalignment that my hair is simply portraying. And it's this pain that's manifesting as my hair falling out, which again isn't pleasant. That is the symptom of the misalignment, of me living in a way that is not aligned with who I am. I hope that makes sense. So we can celebrate this. The stronger the pain, the stronger your true selves are calling you to come home to peace here and now. Being in suffering does not make you unworthy. It is simply potential energy that wants to be moved. This is all the more reason to be gentle with ourselves, to forgive ourselves. Well, this is all the reason to be gentle with ourselves, to forgive ourselves. We have always wanted to come home, but haven't had the right conditions to do so. Perhaps we haven't known the right conditions to do so either. We just haven't known how to come back to ourselves because we've never been taught. But we do now. Rejoice. This is worth celebrating. Pain is here, and it's where love wants to enter. That's so beautiful. That pain is simply where love wants to enter. That's what my therapist, Mark, always says, and I firmly, firmly believe it. Living in peace is living in love. What is more peaceful than living a life of love, than feeling love, than loving others? Such peace, such joy. So, this, I think, is a very necessary framework before we even begin visiting our emotions. Just, we can go back and listen to that as many times as you need. I wish that I was talking to you guys live so that I could answer questions to kind of clarify. But the biggest thing is that if we look deeply enough into our pain, we can see how it's not bad that we feel this way. It's just something that wants to be changed. It's us calling ourselves home. So, the first step, or I guess really the second step after we found a safe space, in the flowchart is I ask myself, am I in a thought spiral? Usually, if I'm feeling bad, I find myself in a thought spiral. If I do find myself in a thought spiral, or I'm just in my monkey mind, as the monks call it, but kind of just survival mode, always anxious, you just feel upset, it's really important here to calm down. To just breathe, to hold ourselves, to be gentle with ourselves. I wrote, practice being gentle. To feel into our emotions, we have to calm down and move into a space of humility. We must shift our intention from figuring something out to being with ourselves. Again, a great entryway to this is just taking deep breaths. Maybe for some people, it can be going into nature. I think I wrote some of these down. Yeah, I wrote, create the right conditions for yourself to be able to calm down. This can be lying in a cozy bed, like I said, being out in nature, being somewhere private where you just feel safe, like you won't be interrupted. Something that I love to do is listen to music. I have a really chill ambient playlist that I listen to. Maybe for some people, if you're especially extroverted, it's talking to a friend who you just trust completely. I tend to process my emotions a little bit more to myself, but every single person's different. The most important thing is that you just find a way to really get out of your mind. Honestly, maybe for some people it can be going on a run, whatever it takes to calm down. Maybe you visit your emotions after you hit a good workout. Another thing that I love to do to get out of my worrying mind is I write down everything that I worried about in my journal. And I say that I can come back to all of these worries after I'm done. And I write them all down and I say, just for now, I put these off to the side. I can come back to them and then I can give my full energy to just being with myself. And I think when it comes to being with yourself, and creating these right conditions, after you have created these right conditions, don't overthink being with yourself. Something that I love to do is just listening to my heartbeat, taking deep breaths, like I said, tapping. If you guys have heard of EFT tapping, it's tapping different parts of your body and just saying positive affirmations. Like you can tap your skull and just say, I am here with myself. I am here with myself. I am here with myself. This is all that matters right now, is that I'm here. this is really powerful to be able to do this, to really slow down and to come home to ourselves. And this is such a prerequisite for any emotional feeling that we're doing, because we're trying to move out of the world of thoughts, because thoughts are just going to end up leaving us running in circles. And because thoughts, like I've said in the past, they really cover up emotions. So, yeah, be with yourself. Find a way to cultivate some compassion for yourself. Usually the voice that will come through to talk to you I found as a little child, it's a little boy inside of me that just wants to be held, that wants to be listened to, that wants to be seen. So this is my next point, and that is honor everything that comes up. Something that I usually say to myself is, while I'm learning to be with myself, is, I'm so sorry I've ignored you. I'm so sorry that I've ignored you. I'm here for you now. I have room for you. I want to know what you're thinking, what you're needing. I'm so sorry I haven't been here for you before. I'm here now. I want to know. I want to listen. I want to be with you. And again, after we've entered into this space, just honor everything that comes up. You can write down all your thoughts. Sometimes I'll literally create a segment in my journal and say, Inner Child Jack, and then I'll just write everything out. I also record myself sometimes. Sometimes I yell. Sometimes I move my body. I just feel like I need to really move my body. But always validating that if something comes up saying, that is so upsetting, that matters. You didn't deserve that. You deserve to be loved. Man, Mark gets it in a tone that's even better than that. Let me see if I can channel my inner Mark. That is so upsetting. That so matters. You didn't deserve that. You deserve to be loved. Yeah, just a very gentle, you didn't deserve that. It's upsetting because it matters. And you can do so in a way that you stay rooted in yourself. And what I mean by this is, do not fall into despair. Do not get totally entranced by the emotion. So for example, if you're coming up with some times that were very, very, very hard in your life, do what you need to do so that you can create a container of compassion for yourself. Like I said, writing stuff down can create some good separation between the thoughts and yourself. Saying them out loud or even recording yourself is something that I do, just to, again, kind of create some separation. It can also be really, really good to anchor in your breath so that you don't just, again, totally go all over the place. You're just giving yourself space to feel. It's really important to honor that things are so allowed to just suck. This phase is honoring everything that comes up. It's not about proving something. It's not about anything except for just totally acknowledging everything that comes up radically. And it can be weird. There's beauty in everything that comes up if we can learn to see it. For example, say that there are some things that you might want to judge at the beginning. Maybe something comes up that is, I really want to be with this person who is already in a relationship. You can say to yourself, it matters to be with people who you feel seen and safe with. This is a beautiful thing to have in a relationship. Or, I hate my family member so much. I hate that this person did this. I can't stand it. It is so shitty and really sucks how you've been treated. You don't deserve this. Again, doesn't mean you don't love the person, but there's truth in what you're saying. You didn't deserve to be treated this way. And the same thing if you find yourself having sexually inappropriate thoughts, for example, you can pull the truth out of it that You're not saying you want to break up this relationship or be with this person who maybe you're not supposed to be with, but you can say that it matters to be with people who you feel seen and safe with. This is a beautiful thing. I remember my therapist, gosh, I hope he's okay with me saying this. I'm like so hesitant right now. I'm going to use a different example just because I haven't asked him before. But I remember something that I wrote down in my journal over and over and over again was, I want my mommy, I want my mommy, I want my mommy, I want my mommy. Just radically writing it all out. And obviously I'm 24, And so it's like, well, I'm not a baby anymore. I'm not going to be held in the same way. But the thought of being held and nurtured and safe is so beautiful. And I can be held in more ways than physical. And this is important. It's important to be helped and seen and nurtured. It's so beautiful. And it matters that this is something that you want, and it matters that this is something that you miss. So again, radically, whatever comes up, writing it down and giving yourself space to really be seen and held in it is such a beautiful thing. I will say that I would caution you against making judgments about other people while you feel your emotions. The way that someone treated you is not okay. However, it is not your right to say that that person is not okay. You do not know exactly what it is like to be them. You can set boundaries to a type of behavior or person or situation without condemning the person themselves. You can even say, I wish you all the best because I can't imagine life is fulfilling when you treat people this way. This is something that I say to myself. And the reason that we do this is because, again, there's no need to poison the garden. There's no need to say that this person that did so-and-so is so unworthy because they did this behavior. Because chances are you're saying that because you feel hurt by them. And guess what? You've also hurt people in times in your life where you've been in pain. And so by invalidating this other person, you're in a way invalidating yourself, and you're putting more pressure on yourself that, oh, I'm so, if for example, if you were to judge someone for yelling at you when they were upset, I mean, you've treated someone in a way that you haven't wanted to treat them when you've been upset. So by judging them, you really judge yourself. And again, maybe you're doing it differently. I know many of you are probably saying, well, I never have done something that bad. And I would just say that, that could 100% be true. But again, you don't know what it's like to be that person. And I think you'll find so much more peace within yourselves if let me put it this way. I've found much more peace for myself throughout this whole process when I'm able to put up boundaries to the person or the behavior or the situation without condemning them for themselves. This is just personally what has worked so much better for me. And it's really helped me to tap more into my emotions and less into my judgment mind. So do with that what you wish. Again, I'm not saying that any behavior is okay. In fact, I think it's important to acknowledge things that aren't okay, but make it about the behavior or the situation without negating the worth of another human being. Because again, none of us knows what it's like to be someone else. So that's just my 2 cents. So again, honoring what comes up radically, finding the beauty in it all. And when we honor everything that comes up radically, this is our way of honoring the beauty in it. So yeah, and usually when I start to really honor myself, like this so matters. It so matters that you feel seen. It so matters that you feel safe. It so matters that you're in an environment where you feel safe. It's not right that you don't feel safe right now, or it's not right that you don't feel loved. It's not right that you were treated this way in the past. This is when emotions really, really start to come up for me. I cry. Sometimes I yell into my pillow at the top of my lungs. I was down in Costa Rica, and this woman taught us to move through anger by yelling, but then we would jump and swing our arms backwards, just very non-violently, and breathe while we were doing that, just to really let the anger out. So obviously I don't know how private any of you can really get, but the jumping and moving is really, really nice. And eventually the emotions will need to be moved physically through your body because they get stored in our cells. So you can do things during or afterwards, like movement, play, dance. Dance is a really powerful tool to move emotions out of our body. My bread and butter is just Qigong. I know yoga is really powerful. You can even just get up and shake out your body. That's a really powerful way to do it. You can sit with the earth, like really just sit down on the ground, and the electric field, I guess the resonance field of the earth is so strong that it will neutralize your emotions in your body and restore your cells to balance, like if they're really hectic. But yeah, the emotions you'll need to physically move them. And tears is a lot of times just a good way to do it too. Like crying is usually all I need, but sometimes if crying isn't what I'm feeling, all these other things can be incredibly helpful. I also have a routine of doing Qigong every day. So I would definitely recommend that as you learn to tap into your emotions more, you have a physical routine that helps you to really feel at balance and peace within yourself. And as someone who works out, I would say it's probably should feel a little bit different than working out, because working out is about, well, if you're building muscle, I think cardio and running can be a great way to really cleanse. But I think if you're building muscle or really training for something, sometimes it can add more stress to the body, when really this movement that you're trying to do, it's trying to move you out of fight or flight. It's trying to move you more into releasing instead of building, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm not an expert with the physical movement stuff, but just listen to your own body. Whatever helps you to feel more balanced within yourself as you move your emotions, trust that. But yeah, so after you've honored all these emotions, cry, doing these things you got to do, the working on the physical stuff, maybe you're doing that afterwards. So let's just stick to the actual moment that you're feeling your emotions. So say you're crying. In the same way you honor your emotions, you can honor the behaviors and symptoms that are tied to this pain. They have kept you safe and afloat until you have been ready and strong enough to meet them. A great example for me, and this is not on my script. I guess I didn't really have to say that, but I feel like when I'm not on my script, I start talking in a different voice. So you guys know I'm not on my script anymore. But the biggest thing for me is overthinking. Overthinking the past year or so has just been driving me crazy. It's been so painful. And I've always just resented myself for overthinking. Like, I don't like it. Why do I do it? And then I started going to therapy, and I started really learning how to feel my emotions. And it was just so beautiful that I started to really sit with the overthinking and the pain that it was causing me. And I asked it, why? What do you want to tell me? How are you upsetting me? Or sorry, what do you want to tell me? I want to be with you. What can I learn? And man, just all this stuff came up about how I remember I wrote, I feel lonely. I feel like that there's something wrong with me. I feel that people don't want to be friends with me. I feel like people don't love me. And I realized that overthinking was my way, especially growing up. It was the way that I learned to get other people to like me, especially growing up in households that were very chaotic. Overthinking was my way to get along with everybody. I felt like there were certain aspects of myself, maybe that I was sensitive, maybe that I was goofy in times that my parents didn't want me to be goofy, because I needed to be at the dinner table. Maybe that's not a great example, but maybe that would make a mess in the house, or maybe there wasn't time to go to the park or whatever, right? That there would be times that I would repress my own individuality. So instead of just being myself, I created overthinking as a way to figure out how I could be the person my parents needed me to be so I could be loved, or be the person that my friends needed me to be so that I could be loved. Another great example of where I betrayed myself to get along with my friends is with my hair. My friends and girls always made fun of my hair. They always said, "Oh my gosh, Jack, your hair, it's so horrible." Well, they wouldn't say it was horrible. They just called me Afro Man. Afro boy, you have an afro. And then they make fun of me. And so I started to get obsessive about my hair. I would always overthink about it. I remember I cut my hair. I needed to do everything I could before I left to make sure that my hair looked okay so that I wasn't made fun of. So you can see this overthinking arose directly as a result of me feeling like I couldn't be my true self, me be loved for being my true self. And it can still continue to do this. I can still continue to feel that if I'm my true self, that I won't be loved. I've even caught myself sometimes during this podcast when I get off topic, overthinking, I need to get back on topic. Because I feel like if I'm just make mistakes or don't say it perfectly, that you guys won't like this podcast as much. But we roll in with it. And I honor myself. And I see you in that. And listeners, I hope that you can really appreciate my authenticity and my vulnerability. And if not, well, there's no one to apologize to because you wouldn't be listening at this point. So let's go. Anyway. But yeah, so my point is that this overthinking, I've villainized it for so long, but it's actually really been serving me. It served me at times to get me love in environments where this was the only way that I could have gotten love. It kept me safe. You know, maybe if I was doing these behaviors around my households, my parents would not be giving me the same support. Maybe I wouldn't. You know, you're a little kid. You need to listen to your parents because they're providing your food, your water, your shelter. And I say this not at all to demonize my parents. I have so much compassion and love for all of them, step-parents and parents, because they're just human beings too, you know? And they're just figuring it out too. That's what being a human is all about, is we're all figuring this out together. And that doesn't mean that the way that they treated me was okay, because I wasn't okay with it. I wasn't seen in the way that I needed to be seen in a lot of moments. In the same way that, as I talked about with my mom the other day, that she wasn't seen in many moments growing up where she needed to be seen. And she needed to be loved for just who she was. I remember in this meditation with my overthinking self bowed to me. I saw it bow. And I started crying and crying and crying. And I thanked it. And I said, "Thank you so much for protecting me. Thank you so much for serving me. Because I've needed you up until this point." And this is when our emotions come up, is that our emotions will come to the surface when they're revealing something that's ready to be moved. If there's a behavior that's a part of you that is not ready for you to come up, then it won't, you know? Like maybe for the very nature of surviving, well, that's all about like the fight or flight mind, right? Like if you're in a situation of immediate physical danger, it's not constructive at all to do any of this because you need to do what you can to keep surviving. Like it doesn't matter if the way that this person treats you is okay or not, because you got to do what you got to do just to survive. So now that you are in a place where you feel safe, where you can slow down, these emotions will naturally start to arise. And that's why it's so important to slow down and to tap into our safe self and to be with ourselves here and now. And I would say that the ultimate goal is really to be in this state of being, of peace, of love, of compassion and kindness. Not in our fight or flight mind, though, but really just the to be in that mind at all times, except for when we are in immediate physical danger. When we are in immediate physical danger, that mind is important. But until then, do we really need it? Because I think most of the time we can make the most sense of what it is that we need in a moment, how to move forward with our life, when we are actually more in this mind. When we are more in the calm mind, everything becomes more clear. I just think that we've been conditioned to believe that we need to operate with the survival mind just to get by. But that's the thing, is that, again, unless our lives are in immediate physical danger, I just don't believe that we have to do this. And I think it's so much more peaceful to live in this kind of mind. So that's what I've been practicing this year. It's been a good journey. Still got a long way to go, but it's been fun. Fun enough that I feel so grateful to be able to share this with you now. So, yeah, we can honor these behaviors and these symptoms, the overthinking, the addictions, addictions are such a beautiful one because, again, if we were to be living consciously in this strong emotion all the time that we don't know what to do with, we wouldn't be able to hang out with our friends, or we wouldn't be able to go to the grocery store, get ourselves food, or we wouldn't be able to go to work. Like, we need something that protects us from these emotions until we're ready to feel them. So of course we're going to go to our screens. Of course we're going to go to weed, or we're going to go to porn, or we're going to go to whatever it is, that sugar, even overly working out, pushing yourself too much, because this is the only way that you know to not feel overwhelmed by all these feelings. But again, as with the nature of our emotions, is that the longer we walk away from our authentic self, well, whenever we walk away from our authentic self, the call is always going to get stronger and stronger and stronger to come home, the farther and farther we walk away. So just keep that in mind if you're feeling a lot of pain, is that it's not bad. It can definitely be a lot to feel. But with these tools, with the anchoring, with the compassion, all things can be moved. All things. These mountains come into form, i.e. the addictions, the behaviors, the symptoms, even the physical manifestation of it. It comes into being to protect us, to protect us, like I've said before, which seems counterintuitive with the physical disease. But let's take my hair, for example. I believe my hair is falling out because my hair was attacked for so long. So this is a subconscious way that I'm protecting myself. So it's important that they're here to protect ourselves. And we can honor that they came into being through love. And now as we learn more about ourselves, we can let them go through love, and we can grieve them, and we can thank them, and we can honor them and say, thank you so much for protecting me. Thank you so much for being there for me. All right. Now the last step is coming down and integrating. So I've had some very emotional days over the past year, and I always think the come down is nice. Sometimes it can be a lot. I think it's always good to have a glass of water next to you. It's always good to have tissues or toilet paper. And I usually just open up my phone, go into voice memos, and just start recording and just say everything that happened. Another really good thing is journaling, just journaling down how you're feeling. And it's important to do this with the same gentleness. As someone who has been very not gentle after feeling these emotions, sometimes I rush into, I figured it out. Oh my gosh. And then I want to make a post about it, or I want to do all these things about it. I would caution against that, because your body needs time to really integrate it. Your body needs time to really sit with it. So it's important to be really gentle with yourself. What did you learn? I learned that it is important to separate from X person and surround myself with people who energize me. I learned I need to slow down, and that it's okay to slow down. I learned that it is okay for me to ask for help. That was a really, really big one for me earlier this year, that it's so okay for me to ask for help, that nobody can do it alone, that it's okay to rely on other people. I learned I can trust my intuition, that if something feels wrong, it probably is. That was another really big one for me. I learned that I can forgive myself. I do not want to be hard on myself anymore. So again, these are all lessons that we can learn when these beautiful, beautiful emotions start to come up. And it's so good to integrate. So how can we incorporate these beliefs into our day-to-day life? Maybe it is getting out of a bad career, a career that doesn't align with you. Maybe it is ending a relationship or a friendship. Maybe it's even sometimes more beautiful, is talking to a partner about, hey, I feel like there's some things in our relationship that I'm ready to change, that I think that aren't really aligned with us anymore. Maybe you can establish some new habits. I remember a few big habits that I've established this year is, one of the first times I felt was, it's so important to be gentle with myself, was how I was feeling. So I set up a routine that if I ever feel overwhelmed, I go lay down on my bed, I play some music, and I just let myself cry. Boom. New habit that I've integrated into my life, because it's important to feel my emotions. So yeah, when you're integrating, another one can be this will be good for the next point that I'm talking about. It can be that I don't want to think as much, that I want to be at peace and I want to be present more. I've caught myself many times being very critical of myself for overthinking. And so for the integration, it's important to have the same gentleness as when you're being with yourself. These new habits and beliefs will be like training new muscles. They will take time. Be patient and compassionate. Feel free to revisit if you need to. So for example, with the overthinking, if I still feel like, man, I still feel upset by my overthinking, maybe there's more stuff that wants to come up, and I can always go back and revisit these beautiful thoughts. Talk to yourself as you would a child learning a new skill, like learning how to walk, maybe learning math if they're a little bit older. But with that person, you wouldn't say, oh, come on. Or at least I hope you wouldn't. You would just say, hey, you're a little kid and you're learning to walk and you got this. Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a Buddhist monk, he says that when he catches himself in an old habit, he says, hello, dearly beloved. And he just notices it. Hello, dearly beloved. I love that so much. It's just so cool. Like, I notice you. We don't have to do this anymore. Like, I believe in you. You got this. But yeah, it's going to be like learning a new muscle. You're not going to be an expert at first. You don't need to, hit the bullseye right away. You can just learn to hold the arrow or hold the bow. Know you're never actually lost, because if you stray too far from your authentic self, or if you stray too far, your authentic self will always lead you right back home. Always. So you can always come back to yourself. You don't have to worry that, oh my gosh, I'm going down this road again. It's going to cause myself so much pain. It's like, you know what? You can always come back to yourself, always. Because again, this pain does suck, but this pain is just asking you to pay attention to yourself. It's just your deepest self saying like, hey, this isn't me. Like, let's get back on track. We can be more aligned. But let's get back on track. It's more of like a, man, I know that we would both be loving life so much more if we were doing this. And you guys are one and the same, us and our authentic selves, we're the same. We just communicate with ourselves through these beautiful, beautiful emotions. I wrote, I have gotten into the habit of doing this. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's it. I've gotten into the habit of doing this. It's beautiful. Yep. I wrote therapy, period, whatever that means. Therapy has really taught me how to do this though, and it's been life-changing. So yeah, this flow chart that I made, it will be right here on the cover. It can really help you to not get lost in your thoughts, to really slow down and to be with yourself, to kind of pick through all the weeds and figure out what you do want in this moment. And yeah, I wrote down here at the very end that emotions can be about asking for help, finding safer spaces. It is okay to have human limitations. So something that I do sometimes is that I feel like these emotions are going to help me to find how I can perfectly create the perfect life for myself. But sometimes that perfect life that you're creating for yourself involves relying and leaning on other people. And I'll say that as a human being, since the dawn of time, all of us have always leaned on each other. Always. Someone goes to the field to get food. The other person goes to get water. The other person stays home and takes care of the kids. Maybe another person is teaching kids how to learn. Teaching kids. Yeah. You know what? Teaching them how to learn. I like that a lot. It's important to know how to learn. But yeah, and the teacher doesn't have to get the water and get the food while they're teaching, in the same way that the person who's getting the food and water doesn't have to worry about teaching their kids or about making sure that the kids are emotionally nurtured. We're all here to help each other out. And I think that there's so many people who are waiting for you, for your authentic self, because you have your own set of unique gifts that they need, whether that be bringing people together. Maybe you're a good listener. Maybe you're gentle. Maybe you're very empathetic. Maybe you're not very judgmental. Maybe you're hilarious. These are all important and they matter. Again, the world is full of so many unique issues, and I believe that the answers to all of these issues lie within each of us. And when we can really sort through the ways in which we've thought we've needed to not be ourselves just to be safe, we can uncover who we really are and really begin to show up in this world. And I always say that if you're adding value to others, you will always get value in return. So there's no need to play God. There's no need to think that by choosing myself, I don't choose someone else, because that's just not true. That's conditioned beliefs. It's not in accordance with these beautiful natural laws that say, yeah, well, you guys get the gist. I won't ramble too much. So yeah, if you have any questions about any of this, please DM me on Instagram, or if you have my number, text me. I can't even begin to tell you how much these things have changed my life. And the very last thing I will say is that sometimes these emotions are so big that they take multiple sessions to go back to. I've had this feeling, like this dense feeling in my mind for a while, and I've tried to revisit it for the past 3 days now, and every single time I just haven't really been able to get through to it. And I've been a little bit frustrated with myself, and when I get frustrated with myself, I start to feel like I'm losing my mind. So I've really been gentle with myself the rest of the day, and I actually was very intentionally gentle with myself just to slow down to record this podcast, because I felt, man, if I'm having a hard time with this, there's got to be other people who are too. I'm feeling so much better talking right now. So, but yeah, please be patient with yourself. You know, all of us are human beings figuring it out together. And, you know, that's what life is all about. It's about learning more about how to be at peace and how to enjoy our lives and how to love that much more. And how we can feel more safe in this world as well, in a way that is aligned with ourselves. I don't think that we have to choose safety or ourselves anymore. I love all of you so much, and I hope you have such a good rest of your day. All right, bye.